Silence hung over the bridge of the Carosel's Might, a massive warship in geosynchronous orbit around Xylos. Grand Admiral Theron stood with his hands clasped behind his back, gazing at the blue-green planet through the panoramic view screen. It had been 3 standard weeks since the Carosil Empire had violated the long-standing treaty with the Terrestrial Federation and seized control of Xylos. 3 weeks of unsettling silence. Status report, Dr. Lyra, Theron said, not turning from the view screen. Dr. Lyra, a younger KRYLL with silver-flecked scales and keen, analytical eyes, approached with a data tablet. No significant changes, Grand Admiral. Terrestrial forces continue to maintain their positions well beyond the demilitarized zone. No fleet movements detected. No formal diplomatic protests beyond their initial acknowledgement of our action. Theron's crest twitched slightly, the only outward sign of his confusion. Their initial acknowledgement? You mean their surrender document? With respect, sir, they never formally surrendered, Dr. Lyra said cautiously. They merely acknowledged our presence on Xylos. Theron turned to face his science advisor. When an empire such as ours seizes a strategic resource planet, the appropriate response is either military resistance or formal diplomatic capitulation. The humans have done neither. Perhaps they recognize the futility of resistance against our superior forces, suggested Commander Vex from his tactical station. Theron nodded. Commander Vex's assessment aligned with the official position of the KRYLL High Council. The humans were weak. They understood their place. The KRYLL Empire's military might was unassailable. Yet something didn't sit right with Theron. He had studied human history. They were unpredictable, adaptive. In previous conflicts, they had shown remarkable resilience and ingenuity. This passivity was uncharacteristic. Dr. Lyra, what do our intelligence reports tell us about recent human activities? Any unusual technological developments, diplomatic initiatives, resource acquisitions? Dr. Lyra consulted her tablet. Nothing significant, sir. Their usual scientific conferences, some minor trade negotiations with the Centauri Alliance. Their economy appears stable, though there was a small uptick in their energy sector investments over the last solar cycle. Energy sector, Theron repeated thoughtfully. Xylos was primarily valued for its rich deposits of crystalline furium, a rare mineral crucial for powering the interstellar drives of the KRYLL fleet. Could they have found an alternative energy source? Unlikely, sir, Dr. Lyra replied. Our technology assessments indicate they are still heavily dependent on traditional fusion and quantum tap technologies, both of which require furium or similarly rare resources. Theron returned his gaze to the planet below. The Terrestrial Federation had established their colony on Xylos nearly 50 Earth years ago, developing the mining infrastructure and establishing a modest but productive outpost. Nothing extraordinary, which was partly why the High Council had deemed it an acceptable target for annexation. Valuable enough to be worth taking, not valuable enough to risk a full-scale war over. Sir, a communications officer interrupted Theron's thoughts. Incoming transmission from Earth. Priority channel. Theron straightened. Put it through. The view screen changed to show a woman with dark hair, streaked with silver, dressed in the formal blue and gold attire of a Terrestrial Federation ambassador. Her expression was calm, almost pleasant. Grand Admiral Theron, she began, I am Ambassador Ilera Vance of the Terrestrial Federation. I hope this message finds you well. Theron's crest flattened slightly in surprise at the cordial tone. Ambassador Vance, I receive your transmission. I'm contacting you to extend my congratulations on your successful liberation of Xylos, Ambassador Vance continued, her voice revealing no trace of sarcasm or hostility. The Terrestrial Federation officially recognizes the KRYLL Empire's claim to the planet, effective immediately. Theron exchanged a quick glance with Dr. Lyra, whose ridged scales had risen in surprise. Furthermore, the ambassador continued, we would like to celebrate this new chapter in KRYLL human relations by inviting you to attend the Xylosian Harvest Festival, which will be hosting aboard the Celestial Harmony space station in the neutral zone next week. It's a cultural tradition we've developed during our time on Xylos, and we would be honored to share it with you and your officers before we complete our withdrawal. Theron's instincts flared with suspicion. Ambassador, this is an unexpected response to what your Federation must surely view as an act of aggression. Ambassador Vance's smile remained unwavering. Grand Admiral, the Terrestrial Federation has always valued peace and cultural exchange above territorial disputes. Xylos was becoming increasingly burdensome to manage. Perhaps this transition is for the best. We hope your delegation will join us for the festival. It would be a meaningful gesture of goodwill. The screen returned to the view of Xylos as the transmission ended. Sir, Commander Vex said, breaking the silence. It's clearly a trap. Perhaps, Theron replied, but a trap sprung at a cultural festival in neutral territory, under the watchful eyes of multiple neutral species? That would be diplomatically catastrophic for them. They're up to something, Dr. Lyra mused, her analytical mind working through possibilities. But what? Theron considered his options. Refusing the invitation would appear fearful. Attending personally would be reckless. Dr. Lyra, prepare a delegation. You will lead it. Take a security detail, but remember this is ostensibly a cultural exchange. I want to know what the humans are really planning. Yes, Admiral, Dr. Lyra replied, unable to completely hide her curiosity about the unusual assignment. And Dr. Theron added, keep your eyes open and your mind sharper. The humans rarely do anything without purpose. The Celestial Harmony Station was a marvel of interspecies architecture, a gleaming ring of interconnected modules orbiting a small, uninhabited moon in the neutral zone. As Dr. Lyra's shuttle approached, she noted the unusual number of ships docked at the station. Not just human vessels, but also those from the Centauri Alliance, the Alderan Collective, and even some independent trading consortiums. Quite the gathering for a simple harvest festival, murmured Security Chief Krantz, a battle-scarred KRYL veteran who had served under Theron for decades. Indeed, Dr. Lyra replied, her scientific curiosity piqued. The humans are investing considerable resources in this event. Their shuttle docked smoothly, and the KRYL delegation was greeted by a human in elaborate ceremonial attire adorned with what appeared to be stylized representations of Xylosian plants and minerals. Welcome, honored representatives of the KRYL Empire, the human said with a deep bow. I am Cultural Attaché Wei. We are delighted you could join us for this special occasion. Dr. Lyra inclined her head in a measured gesture of respect. The Grand Admiral sends his regards and hopes this exchange will foster greater understanding between our civilizations. Wei smiled. Of course. Please follow me. The festival is about to begin in the central atrium. The central atrium of Celestial Harmony was transformed into a kaleidoscope of colors and sounds. Banners depicting Xylosian landscapes hung from the high ceiling. Musicians played exotic instruments, creating haunting melodies that seemed to evoke the wind rushing through Xylos's famous crystal forests. The air was rich with the aroma of foods prepared using Xylosian spices and ingredients. But what struck Dr. Lyra most was the atmosphere among the humans. There was no undercurrent of resentment or tension, no sideways glances of hostility at the KRYL delegation. Rather, the humans appeared genuinely celebratory, mingling easily with representatives from a dozen different species. This is not what I expected, Security Chief Krantz muttered, his hand never straying far from his ceremonial weapon. Nor I, Dr. Lyra admitted. This level of resources and diplomatic engagement for a simple farewell ceremony is puzzling. A chime sounded, drawing everyone's attention to a raised platform at the center of the atrium. Ambassador Ilera Vance stepped onto it, resplendent in formal attire adorned with what Dr. Lyra recognized as replicas of Xylosian crystal formations. Distinguished guests, friends, allies, and honorable representatives of the KRYL Empire, Vance began, her voice carrying easily through the atrium. Welcome to the Xylosian Harvest Festival, a tradition born from humanity's brief but meaningful stewardship of that beautiful world. Dr. Lyra noted the curious phrasing, brief but meaningful. It suggested the humans had expected their time on Xylos to be limited from start. Today, Vance continued, as we ceremonially pass the mantle of Xylos' guardianship to the Kryll Empire, we celebrate not an ending, but a new beginning. For Xylos has given humanity a precious gift, the knowledge that even the most challenging environments can foster innovation and growth. She gestured to a holographic display that sprang to life behind her, showing the rugged terrain of Xylos and its distinctive mining operations. As many of you know, managing the unique ecosystem of Xylos has become increasingly complex and costly in recent years. The depletion of certain key isotopes has made traditional extraction methods less viable. Dr. Lyra's ridge scales lifted in surprise. This was not information the Kryll intelligence had emphasized in their briefings. She quickly made notes on her personal device. But challenge breeds innovation. Vance continued smoothly. I am proud to announce that today also marks the official launch of the Terrestrial Federation's Energy Independence Initiative. The holographic display shifted to show a complex network of interconnected nodes, pulsing with energy. Through years of research, much of it inspired by our experiences on Xylos, we have developed a revolutionary approach to energy generation and distribution, the Quantum Entanglement Grid, or QEG. This technology will enable instantaneous energy transfer across vast distances without the need for physical transportation routes or traditional resource dependencies. She smiled directly at the Kryll delegation. In many ways, we have the Kryll Empire to thank. Your civilization's remarkable advancements in quantum physics laid some of the theoretical groundwork upon which we've built. Dr. Lyra exchanged glances with Krantz. This was an unexpected development, both the technology itself and the credit given to Kryll science. As we celebrate today, Vance concluded, we invite all peaceful civilizations to join us in exploring the potential of this new technology. Through cooperation and shared innovation, the stars themselves become stepping stones rather than barriers. As applause filled the atrium, Dr. Lyra's analytical mind raced. The implications were significant, though unclear. If the humans truly had developed this QEG technology, it could potentially reduce the strategic importance of resource planets like Xylos. But was it real or an elaborate bluff? The rest of the festival was a blur of cultural performances, scientific exhibitions featuring aspects of the purported QEG technology, and diplomatic networking. Dr. Lyra spent hours examining the technical displays, questioning human scientists who seemed surprisingly forthcoming, and observing the interactions between humans and other species. By the time the Kryll delegation returned to their shuttle, Dr. Lyra's data tablet was filled with notes and observations. Your assessment, Doctor? Krantz asked as the shuttle disengaged from the station. Dr. Lyra's crest flattened thoughtfully. I'm not certain. Their QEG technology, if it functions as described, could represent a fundamental shift in interstellar power dynamics. But something doesn't add up. The timing is too convenient. A bluff, then? Perhaps. Dr. Lyra watched the celestial harmony recede from view. Or perhaps something more complex. I need to cross-reference some historical data on Xylos' resource extraction patterns before I report to the Grand Admiral. What Dr. Lyra discovered in the following days confirmed her suspicions. After meticulous analysis of publicly available data supplemented by Kryll intelligence, a pattern emerged. Over the past decade, the humans have been systematically extracting specific rare isotopes and superconducting materials from Xylos at rates far exceeding their reported energy needs. More significantly, these materials were precisely the components theoretically necessary for constructing and stabilizing QEG nodes. But before she could compile her final report, concerning news arrived from the Xylos mining operations. Production of key minerals had dropped significantly, far faster than projected. Extraction costs were rising exponentially. Grand Admiral Theron summoned an emergency meeting aboard the Kryll's might. Explain this discrepancy, Theron demanded, his crest rigid with tension as he addressed the mining operations director. Grand Admiral, it appears the most accessible veins of high-grade furium were already extracted before our arrival. The director replied nervously. What remains is scattered and of lower quality. We're having to dig deeper, using more energy to extract less material. And why wasn't this identified in our initial surveys? Theron's voice was dangerously quiet. The preliminary scans showed adequate reserves, the director explained. But upon closer inspection, we've discovered evidence of extensive horizontal drilling and extraction that doesn't appear in any of the human mining records we obtained. Dr. Lyra stepped forward. Sir, I believe I can explain. Based on my analysis of their extraction patterns and the technology displayed at the festival, I believe the humans have been systematically harvesting specific materials for their QEG technology for years, while deliberately leaving just enough conventional resources visible to maintain the appearance of a valuable but not exceptional mining colony. Theron's eyes narrowed. You're suggesting the festival, their unusual response to our seizure of Xylos, was a calculated move, sir, Dr. Lyra finished. I believe Xylos was effectively a shell by the time we claimed it. The humans had already extracted what they truly valued, the rare materials needed for their new technology. And the festival was what? A distraction? A taunt? Perhaps both, sir, but also a genuine announcement. The Terrestrial Federation has begun constructing QEG stations throughout their territory. They've invited neighboring systems, including several of our traditional trading partners, to join their network, with the stipulation that participants adhere to principles of free trade and non-aggression. Theron absorbed this information in silence, his tactical mind assessing the implications. And the KRYL Empire has not received such an invitation. No, sir. The following months confirmed Dr. Lyra's analysis. The QEG network expanded rapidly across human space, with neighboring systems eagerly joining. Early reports indicated the technology functioned as claimed, allowing unprecedented energy efficiency and making traditional fuel shipments increasingly obsolete. Meanwhile, the KRYL mining operations on Xylos struggled. The High Council demanded explanations for the disappointing yields, and tensions within the Empire rose as the strategic wisdom of seizing the planet came into question. 6 months after the Xylosian Harvest Festival, the High Council convened an extraordinary session. Grand Admiral Theron and Dr. Lyra were summoned to present their assessment of the situation. The council chamber was imposing, a vast hexagonal room with towering walls of polished obsidian. The 7 members of the High Council sat elevated on a dais, their ancient ceremonial armor glinting in the subdued lighting. High Counselor Vex, an aging war hero and staunch traditionalist, spoke first. Grand Admiral Theron explained to this council how we have come to invest significant resources in a planet that yields diminishing returns while the humans mock us with their technological advancement. Theron stepped forward, his posture unyielding despite the implicit criticism. High Counselors, the situation with Xylos and the human QEG technology represents a calculated strategic maneuver that we failed to anticipate. I take full responsibility for this oversight. Responsibility does not solve our problem, Admiral, said High Counselor Kale, leader of the militarist faction and Theron's long-standing rival. The humans have outmaneuvered us, and our empire's prestige suffers for it. Dr. Lyra interjected High Counselor Tarn, one of the more progressive members. Your analysis has proven accurate thus far. What do you recommend as our course of action? Dr. Lyra stepped forward, acutely aware of the weight of the moment. Counselors, the QEG technology represents a paradigm shift in interstellar power dynamics. Traditional control of resource planets and shipping lanes, the foundation of our empire's economic and military strategy, is becoming obsolete. We must adapt. Adapt. Kale's crest flared in indignation. You suggest the mighty KRYL Empire should bend to human innovation? Preposterous. I suggest, Counselor, Dr. Lyra replied carefully, that ignoring reality does not change it. The QEG network is expanding. Systems that join gain significant economic and energy advantages. Those that remain outside will find themselves increasingly isolated. Then the solution is simple, Kale declared. We destroy these QEG stations before the network is complete. We have identified their locations. Our fleet can launch a coordinated strike. To what end, Counselor? Theron interrupted. We do not understand the technology well enough to know the consequences of a military strike against it. And such an act would unite the Federation with all their new partners against us. The Council descended into heated debate, with the militarist faction led by Kale advocating for immediate action, while others urged caution. Eventually, High Counselor Vex raised his hand for silence. Grand Admiral Theron, what is your recommendation? Theron stood straight, his voice steady. I recommend diplomacy, High Counselors. We approach the Terrestrial Federation, acknowledge their technological achievement, and seek to negotiate terms for the KRYLL Empire to participate in the QEG network. Surrender, you mean? Kale spat. Adaptation, Theron corrected firmly. Our empire has not survived for millennia by charging blindly into unwinnable conflicts. We've survived by recognizing when the battlefield has changed and adjusting our strategy accordingly. After hours of deliberation, the Council remained deadlocked. But in the absence of consensus, traditional KRYLL protocols gave operational discretion to the Grand Admiral. As Theron and Dr. Lyra left the Council chamber, Kale intercepted them in the corridor. This is not over, Theron, he hissed. While you pursue your diplomatic surrender, I will show the Empire the true path to maintaining our dominance. Be careful, Kale, Theron warned. Reckless action, now, could have consequences beyond your imagination. Kale's only response was a dismissive gesture as he stalked away. He will act independently, Dr. Lyra observed quietly. Yes, Theron agreed. We must proceed with our diplomatic initiative quickly. But events moved faster than anticipated. 2 days later, as Theron was preparing to send a formal communication to Ambassador Vance, intelligence reports confirmed his fears. Kale had secretly mobilized a strike fleet of 5 advanced warships, operating under the guise of a training exercise, but clearly bound for key QEG installations in the Proxima system. We must warn them, Dr. Lyra urged. Regardless of our political differences, an unsanctioned attack could trigger an interstellar war, Theron finished grimly. Open a direct channel to Ambassador Vance. Priority clearance. But before the communication could be established, every screen on the command bridge suddenly flickered to life with the image of Ambassador Vance. Similar reports came in from across KRYLL space. The humans had somehow overridden the entire KRYLL communication network simultaneously. Grand Admiral Theron, High Council, citizens of the KRYLL Empire, Vance began, her expression serious but not hostile. I speak to you directly concerning the fleet of warships currently approaching the Proxima QEG installation. Theron stiffened. How could they possibly know about Kale's classified movement? We recognize that this action does not have the full sanction of a government, Vance continued. Nevertheless, we cannot allow hostile forces to threaten the QEG network. To demonstrate both our resolve and our preference for nonviolent solutions, we are taking a measured response. The view screen split to show real-time footage of Kale's warships. As Theron and the entire command bridge watched in stunned silence, a strange rippling effect surrounded each vessel. The ship's external lights flickered and died. Their engines flared briefly, then went dark. The mighty warships, each capable of devastating an entire planet, drifted helplessly in space. What you are witnessing, Vance explained, is a defensive application of the QEG technology. We have created localized space-time bubbles around each vessel, temporarily neutralizing their weapon and propulsion systems without causing any physical damage or harm to the crews. Dr. Lyra's scientific mind raced to comprehend the implications. If the humans could project such precise space-time effects at interstellar distances, the treaty was broken, Vance continued, her voice taking on a formal quality. Humanity didn't get mad. We got creative. The KRYLL empire now faces a choice. Join a new era of cooperation and prosperity based on mutual respect, or remain isolated as the galaxy evolves without you. She paused, then added more softly, Grand Admiral Theron, I believe you understand what's at stake. The Terrestrial Federation extends an invitation to discuss the terms under which the KRYLL Empire might join the Quantum Entanglement Grid Alliance. We await your response. The transmission ended, leaving the command bridge in stunned silence. Status of Counselor Kale's fleet? Theron finally asked. A tactical officer replied shakily. All systems disabled except life support and basic communications, sir. They're requesting assistance. Theron turned to Dr. Lyra. Your assessment? Her crest flattened in scientific awe. If they can project quantum effects with such precision across interstellar distances, their technology is far more advanced than they revealed at the festival. The military implications are profound. Not just military, Theron mused. Economic, diplomatic, cultural. The rules of interstellar relations have fundamentally changed. He straightened his posture. Prepare a formal response to Ambassador Vance. The KRYLL Empire accepts their invitation to discussions and dispatch rescue vessels to Kale's fleet. The news of Kale's failed attack and the demonstration of human technological capability sent shockwaves through the KRYLL Empire. The High Council convened in emergency session, but with the empirical evidence of the QEG's power displayed for all to see, even the most hawkish counselors recognized the need for a diplomatic approach. Theron was granted full authority to lead the KRYLL delegation in negotiations with the Terrestrial Federation. Dr. Lyra, whose analysis had proven accurate, was appointed as his chief scientific advisor. The negotiations took place aboard the Celestial Harmony Station, the same venue that had hosted the Xylosian Harvest Festival. If the symbolism was intentional, the humans did not explicitly acknowledge it. Grand Admiral, Ambassador Vance greeted Theron as the delegations convened in the station's diplomatic chamber. Thank you for joining us. Ambassador, Theron replied with formal courtesy. Recent events have made clear the wisdom of dialogue between our civilizations. The negotiations that followed were intense but surprisingly productive. The humans, despite their clear technological advantage, did not seek humiliation or punitive concessions from the KRYLL. Their terms were straightforward. Withdrawal from Xylos, which, as Theron now recognized, held little strategic value. Adherence to a new galactic charter emphasizing non-aggression and free trade, and commitment to collaborative development of the QEG network. In exchange, the KRYLL Empire would receive full technical specifications for constructing their own QEG nodes and integration into the growing interstellar energy grid. Additionally, the Empire would retain its political sovereignty and cultural autonomy. Your terms are surprisingly generous, Ambassador, Theron noted during a private moment between formal sessions. Vance smiled. Our goal was never the subjugation of the KRYLL Empire, Grand Admiral. We recognized long ago that the future of interstellar civilization lies in cooperation, not domination. We simply needed to accelerate your leadership's recognition of this reality. Through a rather elaborate deception involving Xylos, Theron observed dryly. A catalyst for change, Vance corrected. We could have developed the QEG technology quietly and unveiled it later. Instead, we chose to use your treaty violation as an opportunity to demonstrate a different approach to interstellar relations. One based on innovation rather than militarism. Theron considered this. The KRYLL Empire has maintained stability in this sector for centuries through military strength. And now you have the opportunity to maintain it through technological partnership, Vance replied. Your civilization has much to offer beyond martial prowess, Grand Admiral. Your scientists' work on quantum theory was instrumental in our development of the QEG. Dr. Lyra's insights during these negotiations have already suggested refinements we hadn't considered. After 3 intense weeks of negotiation, an agreement was reached. The KRYLL Empire would join the QEG alliance, gradually transitioning from a military-focused imperial structure to a more collaborative member of the interstellar community. The transformation was not without internal resistance. Kale and his faction attempted to rally opposition, but the High Council, faced with incontrovertible evidence of a new technological reality, stood firm behind Theron's leadership. Kale eventually resigned his position and withdrew to a distant KRYLL colony to live in self-imposed exile. Within the Empire, Dr. Lyra became the face of a new generation of KRYLL leadership, one that valued scientific innovation and diplomatic engagement alongside traditional strength. Her work with human and other allied scientists on QEG refinements earned her respect across species boundaries. 1 year after the negotiations, the first KRYLL QEG node was activated in a formal ceremony attended by representatives from a dozen species, including Ambassador Vance and Grand Admiral Theron. As they watched the quantum entanglement grid node pulse with energy, connecting the KRYLL homeworld to the interstellar network, Theron remarked quietly to Vance, "You could have used this technology for conquest, you know." The space-time manipulation demonstrated on Kale's fleet could have been weaponized. Vance nodded. It was considered. There were voices in our government advocating for exactly that approach. But ultimately, we recognize that true security doesn't come from dominating others. It comes from creating systems where cooperation is more advantageous than conflict. A philosophy that contradicts millennia of KRYLL military doctrine, Theron observed. And yet, here we are. Vance gestured to the QEG node, now fully operational. Change is possible, Grand Admiral, even for civilizations as ancient and proud as yours. The activation ceremony concluded with a symbolic gesture. Representatives from all participating civilizations placed their hands on a central console, jointly initiating the final synchronization sequence that integrated the KRYLL node into the broader network. As the system confirmed successful integration, displays throughout the facility showed the expanding QEG network, a constellation of interconnected nodes spanning thousands of light years, transcending old borders and alliances, creating a new framework for interstellar civilization. Later, alone in his quarters aboard the KRYLL's Might, Theron reflected on the extraordinary path that had led to this moment. The KRYLL Empire had violated a treaty, expecting either military resistance or capitulation. Instead, they had encountered something entirely different, a civilization that responded to aggression not with matching force, but by changing the rules of the game itself. The old paradigm, military might, resource control, territorial dominance, hadn't been defeated in battle. It had been made obsolete by innovation. There would be challenges ahead, of course. The transition to a new economic and political reality would test the adaptability of KRYLL society. Old power structures would resist change. New forms of competition and conflict would inevitably emerge within the QEG alliance. But as Theron gazed out at the stars, he felt something unfamiliar: optimism. Not the confident certainty of a military commander assured of his force's supremacy, but something more nuanced. The recognition that civilization could advance in ways that transcended the cycle of conquest and resistance. The KRYLL had broken a treaty. Humanity hadn't gotten mad. They had gotten creative. And in doing so, they had given the galaxy a new path forward, one that offered the possibility of genuine progress rather than mere power shifts. As his ship entered the quantum slipstream, its journey now facilitated by the very technology that had changed the interstellar balance of power, Theron allowed himself a rare smile. The universe had become more complex, less predictable, and infinitely more interesting. Perhaps adaptation wasn't surrender after all. Perhaps it was the ultimate form of strength.